Honda CBR 1000 RR-R Fireblade SP new in the test. Baptism of fire of the Fireblade on the racetrack. The new Honda Fireblade is more radical than ever before. I tested the new machine on the racetrack and got the promised bike. The Lausanne International Circuit is a high-profile testing ground for the new Fireblade. We all know the track already from various tests very well. On the one hand, the track here is not the biggest challenge for man and machine due to the immaculately smooth asphalt and the completely flat layout. On the other hand, however, the track is very fast in some sections and requires very precise turning points and a high degree of traction on corner exits. A machine that is fast here will tend to be able to achieve very good lap times in BRNO as well. Even if the test is long and intensive, it is often the first impressions that are the most important. Because fresh in the saddle, you still feel the small corners and edges of the machine, which then become more and more faded in the course of the day. And so the first positive impression on the pit lane exit was an incredible relief. On the account that I liked the Fireblade very much and had big worries that the new machine is only suitable for the limber, hardcore racers. But you have enough space in the saddle here. Knees and arms glide harmoniously over the tank and can be comfortably positioned. The positive impression is also confirmed in the first curves. Even as a tall rider, you are not out of place. Of course, the knee angle is narrow, but that shouldn't cause me any problems during the day. The stability of the new Fireblade will not surprise attentive readers of the technical data. It seems radical and compact, but comes up with a stable geometric data. The wheelbase of the new Fireblade increased to 455 mm and the caster increased to 102 mm. The steering head angle is now 24 degrees. The machine has been completely redesigned for 2020. All major parameters and key figures were changed. The most obvious changes were the new bore-to-stroke ratio. The old Fireblade had a 76 mm bore with 55.1 mm stroke. The new 2020 model has a fat 81 mm piston and an ultra-short 48.5 mm stroke, a value with which currently only the Panigale V4R can keep up. However, the configuration of the crankshaft and the firing order remain the same. Also, the new Fireblade has a conventional inline 4-cylinder with a 180-degree firing order. Therefore, the sound of the Fireblade is also very familiar. The 217 horsepower sounds great at the regular stable. But of course, proud owners of the previous model will rightly object. Up to 11,000 RPM, the previous model has more power. Honda clearly acknowledges this new positioning and has published a comparative performance diagram during the test. In fact, the new machine is only ahead at the top, but there it has significantly more power and more rev reserves. After a few laps, I was already a harmonious unit with the Fireblade. You automatically take the sporty squat seating position behind the fairing. So seeing the magic 299 km/h mark on the speedometer already in the first turn can't be prevented. However, the display doesn't jump above 300 km/h even if the machine accelerates further. But not everything was perfect for me at the first turn. Clearly the engine had to offer energetic pressure on the long straight. The 217 horsepower should be true, otherwise such high speeds are not achievable for me as an occasional racer. At the corner exit, however, the Fireblade still seemed a bit weak-chested. It was clear to me that the Fireblade has no steam hammer to offer at the bottom, but still that was not enough for me. In part I did the machine wrong, because in the first turn we still drove in mode 2, Sport, and here the traction control was preset in the defensive stage 5. And this new traction control is so buttery smooth that I wasn't even aware of the control interventions on corner exits. Things went better in the second turn. In stage 2, there is significantly more torque at the rear tire in lean angles and the wild horde here now begins to paint black lines in the radius. Still, I hadn't quite gotten the hang of it yet. When the excitement subsided, I began to look at the display and was shocked. I wasn't quite using the rev potential of the bike yet. The bike is unfortunately quite long geared and so I guess I'll have to change my shifting scheme that I'm used to here. Honda states 217 horsepower peak power at 14,500 revolutions per minute for the new machine. This was made possible by uncompromising fine-tuning of the engine. Only the finest materials are used and finally also a speed-resistant cylinder head with cam follower control. A cam follower control has lower moving masses compared to a control with cup tappets. This means that the valves can still be reliably closed even at very high engine speeds. The intake valves are made of titanium, the exhaust valves of steel. Another advantage of the new engine layout is that the wider bore also makes room for larger valves in the head. The intake valves are now 32.5 mm in diameter. That's 2 mm more than before, but all this also fits into the overall concept. And it starts at the front with the air intake. This is routed directly through the control head. Due to the omission of the ignition lock, there is a wider cross-section and the airbox is also new. This allows more fresh gas to enter the combustion chamber. Another highlight can be found a little further down the engine. The new connecting rods are shorter, lighter and made of titanium. One connecting rod is 60 grams lighter than before. Doesn't sound like much, but when the revs go up, every gram counts. Weight means inertia on one hand and also stress for the unit on the other. Lighter rotating components make the machine more manageable and more resistant to revs. The drive from the starter motor is routed through the main shaft of the clutch. Thus the complete aggregate became still more compact. The cams in the cylinder head are DLC, diamond-like carbon-coated. Semi-cam valve train for a shorter camshaft drive chain. The camshaft is not driven via the crankshaft but via a cam idler shaft located further up. This allows higher engine speeds. The bearing surfaces at the connecting rod eye are made of beryllium copper. The bearing surfaces at the connecting rod foot were treated DLC. Euro 5 went past many areas of the machine without a trace. The sound is great, the weight is fine and the power is huge. But Honda had to make two sacrifices to achieve the Euro 5 goal with this package: high cost and a long final drive ratio. For hobby racers this won't matter, but those who want to legally take the bike to the track won't find an optimal gear ratio for compact tracks. But here, too, it is the electronics that correctively gets in the way of your decision making. I actually avoid taking curves in the first gear. In the braking zone, motorcycles become bitchy and when accelerating out, there is nothing to feel except brutality. The Fireblade is quite different. Somehow the combination of engine, electronics, clutch and gearbox manages to serve up the single as smooth as butter. You keep the line clean and drive with breathtaking speeds in the radius. There, traction control and wheelie control are immediately available. Noise acceleration and the connection to second gear also succeed smoothly. When the engine revs above 10,000, things really take off. The amount of acceleration is always staggering. Even on short straights you immediately have a cruelly fast speed on the speedometer. Honda promises 201 kilograms full tank for the 2020 Fireblade. Much of the technology in the new Fireblade engine comes from the sinfully expensive Noble Racer, the RC213 VS. One goes however in completely new directions with the Aerodynamics. The machine does have a similar downforce to Honda's 2018 Mod P machine thanks to the 3-piece winglets. But the technical solution is completely different and very complex. The winglets are integrated into a complex overall concept and integrate harmoniously into the design. The swing arm, for example, features a similar design to that on the RC213 VS. There, however, a downthrust swing arm was used, but not on the Fireblade. Will the Fireblade win the comparison tests this year? Shocking answer for Honda fans, probably not. At least not if the test is driven with 100% standard motorcycles, because the new Honda was sent neatly and strictly through the homologation. As a result, it also has a very long final gear ratio. Here in Qatar on the track we never needed 6th gear and 5th gear hardly ever. Combined with the weaker torque curve in the basement, it will definitely let up on comparative measurements for pulling through. On the track, this costs points, especially on narrow stretches. However, this is only relevant for those people who legally drive to the track with the standard gear ratio. Hobby racers adjust the gear ratio to the respective track anyway. However, Honda also shares this handicap with the current Kawasaki, for example. They have been struggling for years with the too long final drive ratio. Wheelie control has been significantly improved compared to its predecessor. This now accesses the data from the 6D IMU and no longer works with the wheel speed sensors. This sends you out of the corner with a teeny tiny wheelie and serves up the optimum amount of traction. Of course, the wheelie control is adjustable. However, I myself always preferred the subtle level to spare the already strained nervous system. The electronics package can be given top marks overall. As expected, the quickshifter is even better integrated in the new engine. It works flawlessly. The traction control has already been mentioned in praise and the wonderful throttle grip is available as a congenial partner. With the last blade I had to criticize, here's still something. Meanwhile, with this there is no cause for criticism. The rev-happy engine is precise to dose and the electronic engine brake control allows you to adjust the machine significantly to your riding style. The Fireblade, like other modern track bikes, is not a bike that you can get to grips with after a few laps. It offers enormous setup possibilities and it would be a shame not to use them. The brakes have also been upgraded. The hardware is beyond reproach, but Honda takes the safe route here and simply selects Brembo styler calipers for the SP. If you want even higher quality brakes, you have to reach into the parts shelf of the World Cup bikes. At the moment, there's nothing better to be had for production bikes. And the focus on the racetrack is also reflected in the ABS. A track mode is offered here, and this now allows a much sportier driving style than before. The pressure point of the brake is not hard enough for my taste, but the braking performance as well as the braking stability were great. We did 30 minutes of long turns here in the afternoon again. There were no problems with the stability of the brake. However, a small weakness for me revealed itself in the afternoon. The seating position and freedom of movement in the saddle was perfect overall, but at the end of the home straight I would have liked more grip with the thighs on the tank. I myself was completely satisfied with the ABS package. However, some magazines sent former racers. They would have liked to be able to deactivate the ABS in the rear, because in the current configuration no brake drifts were possible. As mentioned earlier, there are a number of things that can be adjusted on the Fireblade. We had a chance to talk about some adjustment possibilities of the new suspension with Öhlins test driver and product manager Andy Notman.
My name is Andy Notman and I'm the test rider for Öhlins and also a product manager for aftermarket at Öhlins. The front fork is completely new. It's compared to the previous Fireblade. This is a MPX fork, so it's a pressurized damping system. The old fork was an open cartridge system. Well, it's derived from our both superbike and MotoGP bikes. They're all running pressurized cartridge systems. For the Honda, we've a bespoke fork bottom with a built-in reservoir for the gas pressure. So it looks different, but it's the same damping system, same technology. So the idea with the Smart EC is to take away the mystique, the difficulty about setting suspension. So instead of having compression and rebound, clicks, plus and minus, many people that are inexperienced don't know how to set up the bike. So instead we targeted actual events on a racetrack or on the street. So braking, acceleration, mid-corner, things that people can relate to, you know. And we said, hey, let's target those specific events, but nothing else. So you can, if you're happy with the general setting on the bike, but you want to target one specific thing, you can do that now with Smart EC. If, for example, you're a track day rider and you have manual suspension and you're happy with the general riding positions and the general suspension feeling around the whole track, but you only have one issue, and that is braking. The fork's always diving too fast, hitting the bottom on the forks, but you don't want to make the forks harder because it will mess up your corner entry, mid-corner, holding the line, corner exit. Now with the Smart EC you can pinpoint that one problem and solve it, but without ruining the rest of the track or the lap.
It was already afternoon when I began with the fine-tuning on the machine. Of course, it is now easy to rave about the setup possibilities on the vehicle. I was assisted in the setup by the Öhlins test pilot who developed the system at Öhlins and the Japanese colleague who integrated it into the vehicle. Together they conjured up my dream setup for the Fireblade on the display. Huge adjustment range for the suspension, 2 clicks change a lot, a circumstance that suited me perfectly, because I don't drive radical lean angles, but I'd like to catch the line with precision. I myself would have liked to solve the turn-in behavior with a stronger engine brake, but the crew advised me against it. The adjustment range of the chassis is very large and you reach your goal faster than if you take a detour via the engine brake.
And we try to do this again for our visitors of 1000 PS TV. At the beginning of the first sessions, I had the problem that I had a running wide at corner exit. The traction control was fine. I was pushing hard for my for my level.
Yeah.
And then I had a little bit running wide. What we changed some, I think, one parameter. What did we do and how did we do it?
Yeah. Do you want me to show you on the display?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So what's good about this Fireblade compared to the previous Fireblade is we have the Opti settings where you can change brake or braking, acceleration, mid-corner, and then the last one was general firmness. So that was like the front and the rear, up or down, harder or softer. On this version of the Fireblade, the new one, we've split that into front and rear so we can actually affect the balance of the bike. And what you described to me was that the bike was pushing wide, so we needed to change the balance of the bike to put more weight onto the front. So what we did, we went into the menu like this, into suspension A mode for automatic mode.
So you push the button long, and then you are now in suspension A mode. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
And then
suspension A mode.
go to the
great.
right.
Ah, okay.
So this is the
Nice graphics. Huh?
yeah, really good. So this is the Opti settings, and we can choose front, that's general firmness, +5 or -5.
Yeah.
Rear, general firmness, +5, -5. This is where we went +2, if I remember right.
So the rear is now just a little bit stiffer.
Yeah, in the whole time, the whole lap.
time. Okay.
Yeah, and then we have the brake, acceleration, and corner. But in the first change we made was the rear firmness.
Okay. Das hat dazu geführt, dass ich dann am Kurvenausgang eben nicht mehr dieses Running Wide hatte. Die Fireblade ist nicht mehr so nach außen geschoben. The reason why is because it doesn't suck into the suspension.
Exactly.
It's more stable. Huh?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
It's incredible. You just made 2 clicks.
Yeah. What's good again about this bike compared to the previous bike is, on the previous bike we had a range of +5, -5, but +5 is probably about equivalent to +2 or 3 on this bike. You understand? So the range is wider now. So 2 clicks make a real noticeable difference. Probably 2 or 3 is the maximum you need to do, but we have 5 for a heavier rider or aggressive rider or whatever.
Okay, wichtige Info für euch, also müsst wirklich aufpassen beim Rumspielen. Das hat echt Auswirkungen. There is no, let's say, dummy mode. If you make a mess, you can really make a shit setup if you're pushing too hard and pushing too lot.
Yeah.
Because there is no safety net or something like that.
No, I mean obviously Honda are very safety conscious, so we test the extremes and make sure that it's not dangerous. But for sure you can make a bad setup, for sure.
Okay. Danach war ich schon zufrieden mit dem Heck, wollte aber noch die Front am Eingang auch ein bisschen präziser haben. Sometimes I missed the inner line, sometimes I missed the curbs, and it must be the fault of the bike, of course. It was not my fault, for sure.
Yep.
So you changed some. I think you changed one parameter more, and then it was fine. What did you do?
Yeah, I think what we did, let's go back into the menu, because if you leave the buttons for a few seconds, then it goes out of the menu. So let's go back in there again. So what we changed actually was the one called corner, which mainly affects mid-corner, but also corner entry. And I don't remember if we went 1 or 2. Do you remember?
I think 2.
Yeah, I
two
think
more
so.
gigs.
Yeah. So that's what we did.
And what's happening? Because everyone wants good cornering. What's the disadvantage of it?
Sure. Disadvantage is potentially lower grip. So you get more stability, more precise handling, but potentially lower grip. But on a track like this, a smooth track, slick tires, is perfect.
Okay. The potential is big, but you have to think about it. You have to work with it. It's a job in the pit lane, no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Andy, thanks a lot. What's your next job? Now the product is finished.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Is there still something to do at this product for you, or is everything fine now?
No, this is fine. This is finished. Everybody so far seemed happy with the product, which makes us happy as well. And actually, right now, I don't know what the next project is. So
yeah, for sure, you are not allowed to talk about.
No,
yeah?
so even if I did know, I couldn't tell you.
Before the last turn, I had my colleague Max on the phone. There is a new suspension fork from Öhlins which is also available for the new Fireblade. This should be in terms of hardware even above the NPX30 gas fork used here. But back in the saddle I had to realize, unfortunately, once you're used to the electric suspension, you don't want to miss it. I tried the manual mode of the great hardware in direct comparison with the active mode. The thing is, the suspension works exactly the same as a conventional suspension. The difference was immediately noticeable. On one hand, the feedback and feel for the front wheel improved. It felt more familiar, especially to me as an experienced rider. But was I faster with it? Unfortunately, no, because the electronic chassis offers tangible handling advantages in the alternating curves and is simply less of a compromise overall. So I was able to enjoy the stability on the straight, but had quick handling in the bends. You can't get this kind of straddle with a mechanical chassis for any money in the world. On site, we not only had the opportunity to experience the motorcycle. The entire development crew was also available for discussions. At some point, the malicious rumor was spread that the Japanese engineers themselves do not ride motorcycles. That was not the case here. I myself was allowed to interview the project manager, Mr. Ishikawa. He himself rides a 2012 Fireblade, has already worked in the HRC MotoGP team and was already responsible for numerous Fireblades.
Thank you for the great opportunity to test the new Fireblade. It's a great honor for me. For me, the first question is, why did you build this bike 2020? You won so many races in MotoGP, but the standard model, the Fireblade, during the last years was not so competitive, and now the Fireblade seems to be a real race bike. Why did you do this 2020?
MotoGP で勝ちまくってますよね、CBR はレースでなかなか最近勝ててないので、2020年になってなんでこの、CBR を作ることにしたんですか。
CBR 乗ってるお客様、スーパースポーツこのカテゴリー乗ってるお客様がやはりそのサーキットで楽しむお客様増えてきてるっていうのもあって。
So there's a lot more customers riding in super sport category on our CBR also that are spending a lot of their time on the bike actually at race tracks.
なんで私たちもそのワインディングだけじゃなくてやはりそのサーキットにフォーカスして車作りをしようと考えました。
So we felt it was the right time for us to focus on having a bike which wasn't focused more on mountain passes and winding roads, but to bring it more into a track focus, and we felt this was the right time.
当然レースでベースになる車になるんで、
And this will be the base for a lot of race bikes, of course.
なんでレースで勝てるものにしました。
And we just had a pure focus on making it have that race winning potential.
And in our market, in Austria and even in Germany, Switzerland, I think 30 to 40% of the people will buy the bike and immediately put off the lights and mirrors and everything and make the race bike out of it. Will there be soon maybe a model from Honda out of the box ready for hobby racing at the same price level, so no 100,000 euros, something like that? So really a track day ready bike without the need for additional fairings or something like that. With Honda quality out of the factory.
You mean a different model?
Maybe based on the Fireblade, but without light, without mirrors, ready for the racetrack, out of the box, perfect, but without number plate, of course.
近い将来に本田さんがやっぱりミラーなしとか、そのままレースで勝てる、サーキットに持っていけるバイク、要はプレートのハンガーもなしで、そういうバイクを、お客さんがそのまま買える、状況を作りたいと思っていますか。要はもう一つのバイクを出すつもりですかと。
基本的にはレースのレギュレーション、ホモロゲーションに合ったモデルを作りたいと思ってるんで。そういうレース専用モデルにしちゃうとそういうレースには出れなくなっちゃうんで、今は、そのレース専用モデル、サーキット専用モデルみたいのは考えてないですね。
So we don't have a plan to make a bike which is ready to go for racing directly from the factory. We always have to consider the homologation rules within each race category. So that's the focus for this bike, that the bike is ready to meet a lot of the homologations required by racing categories. So we think we have the bike ready to do that with this new machine.
Okay. Which is the most important racing success you want to achieve 2020 with the new Fireblade? Which would be the...
レースはカテゴリーでいうとどこを一番目指してます？
そのストックレースもそうですし、スーパーバイクもそうですし、あとは耐久レースですね。もうすべてのレースですね。
All of them. So stock spec racing, superbike racing, and endurance racing. So every race.
Okay. I heard that Suzuka 8 hours is so important for you. The team must win, should win.
8体で勝ちます。
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I want. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay, we're looking for it. Last question. Bike is great with the Öhlins suspension. I really like the electronic suspension in the Fireblade. But I was wondering why you didn't choose the Showa, because you work a lot together with Showa. They also have a good solution. What was the reason for the choice for this manufacturer?
昭和の電子制御にしなくて、オーリンズを 選んだ理由は何ですか？
いろいろテストしている中で、我々の最終的な、要求に合致したのが、最終的に今回こうでしたっていうことですね。
Throughout the testing that we've done, the suspension that we found that best matched the performance of the overall package that we were looking for was the Olins. So it's just a question of Olins being the best match for this kind of new Fireblade.
Okay. Oh, just the last question. How many Fireblades can your factory produce a week or a month or a day? How quick can we get the new Fireblades?
1ヶ月とか1週間で台数どれくらい作れますか、工場で
？1週間でだいたい150台ぐらいですね。
So about 150 units a week we can make.
Oh, okay, good. Arigato. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We learned from him that a victory at the 8H of Suzuka is demanded. Insiders claim that the Fireblade had to become so good because of the defeats on site. Honda wants to dominate now not only in MotoGP, but also in the near series classes. In the end, there was not much room for criticism, because the potential of the machine is breathtaking, but it can only be used if you deal with the possibilities of the technology in detail. Conclusion: Honda CBR 1000 RR Fireblade SP. The fans have demanded and Honda has delivered. The new Fireblade is the sportiest CBR 1000 RR of all time. It now has a clear focus on the racetrack for the first time. Of course, it will also be able to show off many of its strengths on the country road. But in some areas Honda took a clear path, no compromises, performance and lap time comes first. Whoever wants that will be satisfied with the new Fireblade. Honda took no risks and has altogether in the SP simply the best partners brought on board. Akrapovic, Olins and Brembo were the congenial partners of the Honda crew. Of course, all that fancy stuff also comes with a corresponding price tag. However, standing in front of the bike and looking at the components, you don't feel ripped off but feel pride and joy. A great motorcycle. I hope you've liked this test. Thank you for watching. For more great motorcycle videos, subscribe to our channel.